Hey guys, and welcome to the video. So this week there's going to be something a little bit different. So I have for you a case study of how yo-yo dieting can play out with a diet. For example, Slimming World in the case that I'm going to show you. So what I've done is taken screenshots of someone's diary in their Slimming World journey and showing you their feelings and their progress along the way. And what you will notice is certain things I'm going to point out around the motivation, around the results they're getting, around how much effort they're putting into it in terms of they're being totally on the diet and sort of really focused on it, and how it plays out into the yo-yo dieting process. And I've concealed this person's identity, but they will be very happy for me to show these screenshots because they're going to help a lot of people. So let's get into the video. Oh, and before we get into it, if you stick around until the end, I'm going to be sharing my free food structure guide, which is a way of eating without needing to weigh your food, count calories, count points, or count sins, and works in every area of life, whether you're at home, out and about, or at a friend's house. So if you'd like to download that, I'll be talking about that later on. So this lady, she started Slimming World back in July, so around 2 months ago from the date of this video. And in her first week, she did really well. She lost 6.5 pounds and reflected in the post, she's very happy about it, as anyone would be. So just a little note on when you start dieting. So when you start a diet, you can expect to lose more weight at the beginning for certain reasons. So we have to differentiate weight loss and fat loss. So when you're measuring yourself on the scale, in the first week of dieting, like I said, you will lose a lot of weight. Not all of it is going to be fat. So when you reduce the amount of food that you're eating when you're on a diet, certain things will happen. So you will use up the carbohydrate stores in your muscles and liver. And what this means is you drop a bit of weight from that, but also they hold a lot of water. So you also drop a lot of water weight as well. So that will make your weight go down, as well as the fat loss you're getting in the first week as well. In addition to this, because you are dieting, you'll probably have less food in your digestive system. So that will weigh less as well. And also probably making healthier choices. So this might mean that you are holding less water due to consuming less salt and less unhealthy food. And in the first week of a diet, it's very easy to have really high motivation because you're just starting out, you don't yet feel deprived, you feel motivated because you're going into something to change yourself, which of course makes you feel good. And just a little note about what she's written here. She's written about being 100% on it and focused, which I'm going to come back to later, but is one of the big problems with dieting, this 100% on it, totally focused mindset. It seems like a positive thing, but it can backfire, will backfire very quickly. So week 2 now, and this week the lady was ill, and like any week in life, your routine is going to be unpredictable and thrown around by events happening. So sometimes you get ill, sometimes other things happen which throw you off. And she mentioned about her appetite going and not being so consistent, but still losing 3 pounds. So second week of the diet, motivation is still pretty high, and 9.5 pounds lost in just 2 weeks, which is really good, obviously, if you are highly motivated by seeing that scale move. However, this is another little side point of if your motivation is attached to constantly seeing that scale move in the right direction, then this could, and often does, become a problem. And I'm going to come back to that later as well. Very important point. So remember that one. So into the third week of the diet now, and the weight loss is slowing down a little bit. So This week, just £1 off, although of course that's still positive. So 10.5 pounds over 3 weeks. Remember I said some of that will be water weight, not just fat loss. So it won't be a whole 10.5 pounds of fat. Some of it will be water weight, some of it will be the fat loss. But still positive, but you can see there's that downward trend from the 6.5 pounds to the £3 in the second week, and now the third week's just £1. So she said she'll take that, of course. It's still a positive. Any weight loss is a positive. But remembering what I said before about the motivation being attached to constantly seeing that number go down is something to be aware of, which I'm going to come back to soon. Into the 4th week of the diet, and she has lost half a pound this week. So again, the weight loss is slowing down, but still a weight loss, and that's a positive thing. She's also mentioned how her clothes are fitting nicely. She can feel that they are looser, and that's a positive as well. It's a great way to measure progress, not just with weight, but also how you look and feel in your clothes, because that's what other people notice, right? They don't know your weight. They see you as you are. So if you feel like your clothes are fitting better, then that's a real positive. Now, in this post, she's mentioned something very important. So she said she feels like Slimming World is definitely working for her this time. So what that means is she's tried it before and not been successful. Now she feels this time it's working for her because she's got this far and she feels okay at the moment. But as we will see in future posts, that might not be the case. But it's a really important mindset, because while you're doing it at certain points, you feel like it's working and you'll be really positive and motivated. You'll even tell other people, this is a great diet, it's working, try it as well. And they'll come on to the diet and start trying it as well. So the mindset around whether something is working or not, and how you feel about it and how you promote it is very important, depending on the stage you're on with the diet. So while you're going through the process, it's not a very good depictor of whether something's going to work or not. Because like I said, she's very positive and motivated at the moment and says she feels like it's working this time. And again, she's tried it before and she feels now, for some reason, it's working. So let's go on to the next post. So next post, she has seen another pound weight loss, so a little bit up on the half a pound from the previous week. And she said again, she feels the difference. She's got a long way to go, but it's a positive. And in a couple of weeks, she's going away on holiday, and she has the aim of the extra £2 before she goes away. So let's see what happens the following week. So next screenshot, and this is the first week that she has put on some weight on the Slimming World program. So she's put on £1, which is not much, but she puts it down to just going out for an extra meal, but also being hungry quite a lot of the time. So this is obviously a negative if you're hungry while dieting, because you're going to be driven to eat more, and you're not going to feel satisfied. You're not going to really enjoy the process. And she also mentions in the post, now because she's put on that £1, she's going to be totally on it, like even more precise and even more kind of focused on what she's doing. So a few things to discuss here. So I mentioned a few times about motivation being attached to the number on the scale. So for a lot of people, it's not the want to lose weight. They're not wanting to lose it because they want to better themselves. It's the need to lose weight because they don't like the place they're in anymore. They don't like themselves. They see themselves as overweight, and it's affecting how they feel. So they need to lose the weight, and it's a self-worth thing. They don't feel worthy. They don't feel enough unless they lose the weight. And what this does, it activates the survival brain. So you're constantly on the lookout in your brain for how people perceive you. And this means that you constantly need to be reassured about progressing week to week to feel enough. Am I doing enough? Am I getting results? Am I constantly seeing results? Because if I'm not motivated to do this diet that I feel obliged to do because I need to lose the weight. I don't want to do it, I feel obliged to do it. And so what happens is, if your motivation is constantly attached to seeing that number on the scale go down, then the motivation is constantly going to waver. Why is that? Because you can't expect the number to constantly go down because of several reasons. Number one, weight loss is never linear. It goes up and down all the time due to water retention, other things which affect what the scale says. But also you are not always going to have progress. You're always going to come up against obstacles. Things are going to happen in life. So if your motivation is attached to constantly seeing that number go down, then like I said, the motivation is constantly going to waver, which is a bad thing because when your motivation wavers, you put less effort in, and then that reflects in your results, and it ends up in this downward spiral of you then going off track, which you don't want to happen, okay? And just a quick side note of what you should be doing instead. I've mentioned this in other videos. So your motivation should be attached to how you want your life to be in every area in the future. How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? How do you want your confidence to be? How do you want to be around your partner, your friends? How do you want to be in your career? How do you want your finances to be? What do you want to do? What would you do now that what would you do in the future that you're not doing now? And how will your life be? And the motivation should come from all this exciting future, rather than seeing the number go in the right direction. Because the exciting future is there, and it's something to be aiming for. Whereas, like I said, the number on the scales can go up and down daily or hourly without actually you having any control over it. So you don't want something to constantly affect your motivation like that, because then you're never going to get to that exciting future. Now, a note about being 100% on plan and focused. While this sounds like a good idea, and being more and more focused on what you want to achieve sounds like it's a positive thing, with dieting it's not, because what that means is you are restricting more, you are stressing yourself out more because you're counting things more, being overly precise, and that leads to this build up in the background of restriction. And over time, as you will see in these screenshots, this leads to getting stressed and tired and wanting the diet to be over or have a break. And I'm not going to explain too much about that now, but it often leads to a binge at the end, which sets you back. Okay, so this next post is where it starts to go downhill. So she explains, this is about 10 days after the previous post, that she's now put half a stone back on. Remember, before she said she felt like this time Slimming World was working for her, but it's now gone downhill, and she's changed her expectations of what she wants. So she mentioned about her holiday in a couple of weeks. She's now talking about holiday next year because she cannot go on the ride with her daughter. And this is a really good motivation, really, actually. Something that actually is not just about looks. It's about like what you want to achieve and the bigger reasons. So it's about her daughter and the ride she wants to share. I think it's a swan ride. So yeah, this is a bit of a negative post because obviously she feels now that she's gone backwards, and we saw this coming though. So we talked about it in previous posts. We talked about how the restriction and being totally on it, and just Slimming World as a whole often goes in this cycle. So this is the first post about going backwards, going downhill. And so let's go on to the next post and see what she says. So this one is just actually confirming what she said in the previous post. So I think she had an official weigh-in and she put 5 pounds on. She knows why, because she said she was eating terribly leading up to her holiday. And so this is the relapse period that I was talking about that would come. So the black and white thinking, the perfectionism mindset leads to this. So believing you need to be 100% perfect to get results leads to this binging behavior because it's a black and white mindset. It means you're totally on the diet or totally off the diet. There's nowhere in between. So as soon as you feel like you've done something wrong, your mind has that excuse now of, oh, you've broken the diet, and so you may as well just have the day off or the week off, or, oh, actually, you're going on holiday next week, so what's the point of dieting for 4 days? You may as well just start again when you come back. So it comes up with all these excuses, and this is the black and white mindset. There's nowhere in between, but it's that in-between area that is the sustainable area and works for long-term weight loss. So rather than being totally on it or totally off it, doing the best you can in the moment without letting your brain come up with all these excuses that make you go overboard and eat things that you know you don't really want to be eating. So it's fun to have like a pizza or a piece of cake or something, but that shouldn't make you then feel, oh, I've gone off the diet and I may as well just eat badly for the next 4 days because I can't go back onto the diet. That's the point. It should be a grey mindset of doing the best you can in the moment. And life has things that happen all the time, like holidays, like being ill, things that are unexpected. So there's no best time to start a diet. You should never start the diet on a Monday because the next week something's always going to happen. So you should be always starting the diet knowing that things are going to come up and learning how to tackle them. And that's the skill that a lot of people lack with dieting, how to tackle these things that may be scary or unexpected. So rather than avoiding them and starting the diet afterwards, you should be confronting them head on and learning from them. What can I do in these situations that help me still make some progress, still be able to actually progress towards my goal without going completely off track? So the next post is about 20 days later, and she confirms in the post that she put all the weight back on that she previously lost, and she's restarted Slimming World and lost 2.5 pounds. So again, as we predicted, this would happen. Remember, she said she felt like Slimming World was really working for her this time, but it's now the next time, and she started Slimming World again. So we can see this is how the Slimming World process often plays out and how it leads to yo-yo dieting. You feel very motivated, you start making quick progress at the beginning, but then it starts to build up, the restriction starts to build up, you start to feel like you're being restricted. Life happens, you don't know how to deal with life around the eating structure, and then there's this black and white mindset of I'm either on the diet or off the diet. I'm being perfect. When I can't be perfect, I end up doing nothing. And because of the restriction, the build up in the background of your mind, when you do have these days where you can't be perfect, your mind is like, oh, we got a chance to eat all the stuff that we weren't allowed to have before. So let's make the most of it, not just for now, but for every day in the future, because we don't know when we're next going to get a chance to have all this food. So it makes you want to eat all the food that you couldn't eat before, which obviously you'd end up feeling bad about and then thinking, oh, I feel terrible about myself again, and I really need to start the diet again. So either start the same diet again and blame it on yourself, oh, it wasn't good enough, and now I'm going to be even more totally on it. Remember why I said that was negative before? Or you start a different diet. But just a little note on this one as well. Look how she's positive again and thinking somehow this time it's going to be different. Even though this happens every single time. At the beginning of the diet, it's, oh yeah, I feel like it's going to work this time. This is going to be different. But it happens every single time. And this is the paradox in the mind. Every time you start the diet, you think, oh, this is the time, it's going to be different, and then feel really motivated, make progress for a few weeks, then end up relapsing and putting all the weight back on, blaming on yourself, and then starting again. So the next post is a very negative post again. So it looks like she put all the weight back on again, and she's finding it extremely difficult. And like a lot of sympathy here, because Slimming World sets you up again for this yo-yo dieting, and it's very difficult to actually get long-term sustainable weight loss with it. So over these few months of her trying it, she's still at the same place as when she started. Even though she lost some weight, she put it all back on. And that's a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of money wasted. So she mentions how she starts off with good intentions, but ends up binging. So obviously the motivation is just not there, and she's finding it very difficult. So yeah, like, again, a lot of sympathy for everyone in this situation, because they feel like Slimming World is going to work for them, and they're told it's going to work for them. Other people who are doing it tell them it's going to work for them. But remember, unless you've actually lost the weight and you are at your goal weight and are totally free from dieting and not having to think about food, plan food, and change your life because of food, then, and like cut out things that you enjoy, then you haven't resolved your problem. You're still a slave to the diet. So let's see what happens in the next post. So in this post, she's obviously got to that very low place and gone to her doctor about her weight, and the doctor has referred her to a different diet system, a different diet plan, and now she started something else. So although this looks very positive and all the motivation is there, we can see that quite likely exactly the same thing is going to play out as we just see in all these posts. So new thing, start to lose some weight in the beginning, feeling really motivated. After a few weeks, start to feel restricted, life gets in the way, start to put some weight back on, feel bad about yourself, feel guilty because you haven't stuck to the plan, it's all your fault. You feel like it's your fault, even though it's not. And then end up either starting again or doing something different. And this is what happens in so many people's lives. They spend their whole life dieting on and off the diet, never get anywhere, they're never happy. And like I said, they feel they need to lose the weight to feel enough. So they're not happy, they don't feel worthy, they're constantly down, and the motivation is constantly up and down as well around their progress towards their diet, and they just never get anywhere. So this is why I do what I do. This is why I work with people to take them away from dieting, still be able to lose weight, solve their emotional eating, live in alignment with their values so they constantly make progress and eat in a sustainable way, which includes things that they enjoy. So if you would like some extra help with this, I will include a link down there in the description. Also, I mentioned at the beginning, I will provide you a link to my free food structure guide. So this is a way of eating that, as we're talking about Slimming World, let's compare it to that. So it takes you away from counting points and sins and makes it so much easier to measure portion sizes. So learning to measure portion sizes in the easiest possible way, which reduces stress and reduces the thinking power, which you don't want to be wasting when you have your busy day and are trying to lose weight. It's the last thing that you want to be doing. So if you would like that, that is down there in the description below. And if you have found this video useful, let me know below as well in the comments. I'd really like to hear your opinions on this. Have you tried Slimming World? Have you yo-yo dieted? And what has been your experience? How long have you managed to stick to it if you have? I know some people that have a lot of weight to lose have managed to stick to it for a number of years and lost a lot of weight. But still, let me know. I'd like to know like where you are in your journey. And just a side note as well, just come to mind that I think it was last year I had a message from someone who wanted to remain anonymous by email. And they were a Slimming World Slimmer of the Year and mentioned how they had lost a lot of weight and had been promoted as a success on Slimming World. However, they then said that they just couldn't stick to it ended up putting all the weight back on. So they put all the weight back on. So even these people that are promoted as doing super, super well and used in the marketing to get you in, they're not, their story, their journey is not always as it seems. So there's something in slimming world that is missing that makes it unsustainable for the long term. And I've mentioned about this in various videos in the past, different things, different reasons. So check out my other videos for information around those topics. But for now, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. A like if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.